Thank you for listening to The Luminous Mind, episode 47.
I help people write the books that are inside them that they want to bring into the world.
Benjamin Franklin once said, "Do not curse the darkness, rather light a candle instead." If you're ready to set your mind on fire, then prepare yourself for the Luminous Mind with your host, Rebecca Bowman.
Today's Firestarter is Karen Benke. She's a writing coach and mentor and author of 3 creative writing adventure books from Shambhala and Random House, Rip the Page for 8 to 12-year-olds, Leap Right In for teens, and Write Back Soon. Adventures in Writing for All Ages is forthcoming in September of 2015. A longtime California poet in the schools, she lives north of the Golden Gate Bridge with her teenage son, Magic Cat, and rescue dog. Visit her at KarenBenke.com. Thank you, Karen, for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me, Rebecca. This is so fun.
Yeah, I met Karen on LinkedIn, and I think it's awesome when we can get together on social media and get to know people. So I'm really excited to learn more about your curriculum. Do you want to give us an idea of what the inspiration behind your curriculum was?
Well, I worked for 20 years with the California Poets in the Schools program in the San Francisco Bay Area, where I taught creative writing workshops specifically in the genre of poem making to kindergartners through 8th graders. So my inspiration was just to get them to play on the page and to loosen up and have fun. The Poets in the Schools program, we're a 50-year-old program, and basically kids kind of cheer when we walk in the classroom, and it's an hour for them to go into the dreaming, doodling part of their brains and trust their imaginations and understand they cannot be wrong, they cannot be graded. It's just a matter of putting what's deepest in their hearts and their imaginations on the page, and it's quite an extraordinary program. I'm still thrilled to be a part of it, although I do more author visits now. And my books came out of working with the kindergarten through 8th graders. They were my teachers, and I finally decided that I had to have some of their amazing writing displayed, and I created my book from my teaching, from my lessons with them.
Oh, that's great. And one of the problems that I've had with my kids' writing, I think we teach them so much grammar and so much mechanics that you're right. I mean, to feel like they're free to just write and not be graded on all that stuff is pretty exciting. Do you find that because you have more of a loose idea that, like you said, they're more excited about it, or?
Yes. Certainly when the poem gets to, or the story or whatever they're writing gets to the point where it's ready to be finished, then there's the time to check the punctuation and make sure the spelling's right. But in the beginning, I say, the punctuation police is far. We are going to do best guess spelling. We're going to write in broken bits of thought. We're not even going to worry about sentence structure right now. Let's get what's in our imagination on the page first, and then you can start molding it and crafting it and moving it around. And then believe me, by the time they have finished something, they want it to be, quote, right as far as grammar and punctuation. But in the beginning, if they're worried about that, about it coming out whole the first time, it never does. Good writing is rewriting, and we have to, that's what I love about the Poets in the Schools program, is we model that. We show them that it doesn't just come out perfect. Sometimes it does, but oftentimes we have to keep playing with the words and moving them around.
Yeah, that's so true. And like you said, I think they're more apt to do some self-correction on some of the mechanics after it's all done, because they want, like you said, they want it to be perfect. So I named some of your books off in the bio. Do you want to kind of tell us about those books and what each topic or each one kind of covers, and
Sure.
those types of services?
Sure. So my first book in the series is called Rip the Page. Like you tear it, but you rip it. And it's aimed at 8-year-olds to 12-year-olds, although I have a lot of second-grade teachers who say, oh, my kids just love your book. And basically, Rip the Page is an interactive book. You can write in it. You can rip pages out of it. There's letters of inspiration from some of my favorite kid authors written directly to the people who will be using the book: Annie Barrows, Naomi Shihab Nye, Lemony Snicket, Avi, Gary Soto. And the book is just, you can open it to any page. There's definition decoders if you want to know what the definition of alliteration is. There's a lot of student examples. There are pages and pages of word lists that kids can use, because sometimes it's daunting to sit before a page, so the word lists can help. And it's been a really fun, well-received book. It's in a third printing, and a lot of homeschooling communities use it.
Oh, that's great. And with your word list, does it just give them ideas, or what's the thought behind that?
So the thought behind that is sometimes you just need to have, for instance, one of the pages that the third graders that I worked with really liked, it's just a list of small words, and there's lots of space for you to add your own small words. So all words, 6 letters or less. And I've seen girls and boys, but girls out on the playground with the book just writing down words, pebble, sky, door, hand, window, hopscotch, although that's longer than 6 words. So they're just words, word lists. There's A to Z word lists. There's animal word lists. There's gross out word lists. There's verb word lists, exciting verbs to use. So that is just something to have open when you're writing. Onomatopoeia words, action-packed words like whoosh and hiss and plop and yippity-yip, and just to have at the ready so that when they're writing, some kids go, I'm stuck, I don't know what to write. And then they have the word list, and that spurs them on and sort of sparks something for them to keep going.
Yeah, and probably adds a lot of interest to their writing as well, I'd imagine.
So it does. Yeah.
Great. So what about your other books besides Rip the Page?
So my other book in the series is called Leap Right In. Right is spelled W-R-I-T-E. And I started working with middle schoolers and high schoolers. And so this was a really fun book. It's geared toward teenagers. Adults seem to really like it too. And there are more adventures to stretch and surprise. I say to stretch and surprise your one-of-a-kind mind. How to write mini memoirs, on-the-spot prompts, different ideas, how do you wake up in the morning? I start a sentence, you get to finish it. And then there are also places in the book there's also definition decoders like the first book. And then there's suddenly a story pieces. Sometimes you know how you want to start a story, but then you get stuck in the middle. And so I give ideas for that. And there's a rippling memoir through it that's my own memoir of my life to show, you can write your memoir too, and it doesn't have to be super, super long. It can be little tiny paragraphs that you piece together. And so I show how to do that with a lot of student examples again.
That's great. And what about your third book, the final one?
And the third book is coming out September 22nd, and it's called Write Back Soon, Adventures in Letter Writing. I got really tired of my 13-year-old looking at him on his device, and I'd really like to write letters. So it's a whole book about note passing and letter writing, and basically putting the devices away and picking up a pen and playing on the page, but then taking it one step further and putting it in an envelope and mailing it to someone.
Yeah, it's kind of a lost art to send mail anymore, and then when you get a letter, it's kind of exciting because you're like, wow, because it doesn't happen anymore.
Well, the average person gets, I think, one personal letter every 6 to 8 weeks, if that. It used to be that's how, when I was younger, I sent a lot of letters and I received a lot of letters, and now it seems that has dropped off.
Yeah. Well, and I think your mechanics, when you are actually sending and writing a letter, you're a lot more conscientious of making sure all your punctuation's right, and I think it helps with that too. I see a lot of kids nowadays, they don't capitalize very often because their phones.
No, they don't, or they write in just abbreviations.
Yeah.
So that touches on that, how to actually address a letter. My editor was in line at the post office in Boston a couple weeks ago, and she told me that there was a college-aged man in front of her, and he had to ask the postal worker how to address the letter. He didn't know where the return address and where it went. So it addresses that.
Yeah, that is so funny. I mean, it is a lost art, and to see that move to a situation where college students are having to ask, that's kind of sad. So
we need to write more letters. So
yeah.
This book is also geared toward all ages, because young to young at heart, in the elderly. And there's a lot of authors who have contributed letters, like Gary Snyder and Neil Gaiman and Ruth Ozeki. And my hope is that it's going to be fun not only for kids, but for adults, too.
Yeah, like a family learning type of resource.
Exactly.
Is that correct? Great. That's awesome. So do you offer any other services to families?
Well, I do consult with parents and students. I work one-on-one with students. I actually also correspond to parents and students if they're having challenges with their child writing or they want to get some ideas. I have one student I work with in Hong Kong right now, and we check in once a week. I also visit libraries and bookstores. In fact, last week I did a writing circle with several families, and it was really fun.
Wow.
Kids as young as 8, and some people in the group were as old as 75, and we had an evening of just having a great time. I would offer prompts, and I have magic word tickets, and we just played, and everybody got to contribute, and if they wanted to read what they wrote, they could. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, I love the varied age groups, too, because I think you learn a lot off of different age demographics like that, you know.
I definitely, yes, I learned so much. That's why I kind of structured it that way.
That's great. So do you do those online, or do you set those up at like a meetup type situation?
I do them mostly through libraries and bookstores throughout the Bay Area and California, but I would be open to doing them online. It's just my whole premise is that I actually want people to close their devices and work in real time.
Yeah.
So I do have a hard time with, but then again, I would never get to work with one of my students, say, in Hong Kong. I can't quite visit her every week.
So that's great. Before we go on, let us take a minute and hear about our sponsors.
Hey Firestarters, are you looking for a new way to listen to the Luminous Mind? Try listening on Stitcher. Haven't heard of Stitcher? Think of it as radio on demand. You can listen to the Luminous Mind anytime, anywhere. There is no downloading, no syncing, no wasted memory. Just stream your favorite podcasts such as the Luminous Mind. Stitcher is available on iOS, Android, Nook, iPad, and also from your favorite internet browser. Don't have Stitcher? Download it free today at Stitcher.com or in the App Store. And make sure you rate and review the Luminous Mind so together we can continue to light minds on fire and change the paradigm of education.
Welcome back to the Luminous Mind with Karen Benke, a writing curriculum developer. So what successes have you seen with your products?
Well, I've seen that we'll rip the pages in the third printing, and it's doing really, really well, not only with the homeschooling communities, but public and private schools. And then I was at AWP, Associated Writing Program, in Seattle last year, and I had a number of college-age teachers come up to me and say, "Oh, we use your book for our incoming freshmen to help de-traumatize them." So I thought, wow. So I'm seeing it crop up more in education departments, which really makes me happy because I love, I taught for 20 years and I know how busy teachers are and I know what their inboxes look like. And so I try to make my books really accessible and really easy for teachers to use if they want a creative writing hour component for their classroom.
Well, and it sounds like you've written it in a way that's very non-intrusive in the fact that it doesn't seem like it overwhelming to the student, right? Like it's... Right,
and because I'm easily overwhelmed, I tried to think of how is this going to best help the student. Right, it's very
user-friendly.
It's not about, it's user-friendly. You can open at any page. If you don't if you don't want to do a page, skip it. I even tell them, just cross a page out if you don't want to do it. You're in charge. Trust yourself. This is supposed to be fun.
Yeah, that's great. I love that the products that you're trying to make them fun, because maybe what the word I was looking for was less intimidating in a way. I mean, sometimes when I open up a writing book, I'm so intimidated by sentence structure and by some of those things that it's not fun. I'm like, am I doing this correctly?
It feels like going to the dentist or something.
Yeah. Exactly. That's great. How can families benefit the most from using your products?
One of the things I think about is having a big jar of fun pens and pencils out on a table and a big piece of unlined butcher paper, and just to have families understand that they can get involved too, and just have it like a designated place. You want to feel like writing? Here, it's open. There's my book. There's the pens. Go sit down. I had a family in Maine tell me that they all bought notebooks for each other, and they put their names on their notebooks, and once a week they had a little family writing group, and they used Rip the Page to give them prompts and ideas, and everyone came together in the evening. I think it was on a Thursday, and everyone got a chance to kind of open the book at random, either leap right in or rip the page. This happened to be Rip the Page, and pick a prompt and then write on it. And the notebooks were really cool. They were like little moleskin notebooks, and people had their names on it. And I just encourage parents to write with their kids, to sit down, and if they want their kids to write more, then kids have to see their parents writing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you've got a mentor that it's something that you do your whole life, and then kids are more apt to follow that example. So, and I love that you've created a book for anybody, that's written for parents and families to use. I think that's wonderful.
That wasn't my goal in the beginning, but the smart people at Random House made it a crossover book, and I'm so happy that Rip the Page has been a book that adults really embrace, too.
Yeah. Well, and it sounds like the kind of book that if a college student's kind of unsure how to get started, like you said, that they have a resource that they can use and go to kind of teach themselves some writing skills.
Yes,
yes. So you've talked about your book coming out in September. Do you have any other long-term goals?
Well, I do have Write Back Soon's coming out in September, and then after that, I think I have one more creative writing adventure book in me, so I'm kicking that around. And then I have a young middle grade book in progress. It's a 4-series book that I've been working on, and then I also have a full-length collection of poems that I'm putting into the world next fall, or this fall, actually. And then just to keep working with my clients, I help people write the books that are inside them that they want to bring into the world. So that's really gratifying. One of my clients has a new book coming out at the same time Write Back Soon is coming out. So I'm going to be helping her promote her book along with mine.
Oh, that's great. So if you could leave a legacy, what would it be? It sounds like you've kind of made a life of that.
Yeah, I think the legacy might just be that trusting the process of just playing on the page, and we all have so many stories inside of us, and they deserve to be written down, and it doesn't have to come out in any particular way. We're all going to write something different because we're all different people. We can learn a lot from writers who have gone before us, of course, but we are the only ones who can write our story our way, and there's no one right way to do it.
Yeah, and I love that non-scary, aggressive type of attitude, that it's very, very relaxed.
Don't we have enough? We have enough of that. So my books, I hope, are more about joy and about relaxing and playing and having fun and not getting that kind of scared feeling inside where we're terrified that the red pen's going to come out and things are going to get marked as wrong.
Yeah. Do you have any parting advice for our listeners of ways that you can be a better writer and to help your students as well as your children?
Let's see. Well, what comes to mind, I have done something for the past 20 years that has just been kind of simple, but it's worked. Some people like to knit or crochet. I like to cut words out of newspapers and magazines and old books. And I just cut little groupings of words out that I like the sound of. Sometimes they're just verbs. And I tape them on these little Admit One tickets, kind of like the tickets you get when you go to the movie theater. And I have bags of them. I keep them in these little velvet bags. And when I do workshops, people just love these magic word tickets. And I started giving them away. My friend Susan Woldridge gave me the idea of making them, and she keeps hers. And I thought, I kind of just want to give some of them away because I have so many. So if you make little tickets, put words that you like on tickets, different colored tickets, and just keep them in a bowl nearby and grab a handful, they really inspire writing. And I've used them for 20 years, and people they love them. I'm not sure exactly why, but they work.
So you cut yours out of magazines. I mean, is there a place that you could go and maybe purchase something like that has a plethora of words, or? Or do you just recommend script?
Well, I'm revamping my website right now in anticipation of my new book coming out, and I've thought about selling little bags of word tickets. I mean, I've had kids beg me, can I please keep the word tickets you gave me during writing hour? And I'm like, sure. So I've thought about selling them. Maybe this is a great question from you. I'll think about having a little word ticket satchel on my website, so people should visit my website in about a month and see.
Yeah. Well, another fun thing that my son did, we found him their little dice, and they have you just roll the dice and they have different prompts, like you said, but some about setting and some about word choices and some about, characters in it. Those are kind of fun
exactly.
too.
So the tickets are like dice because you don't know what you're going to get. It's that surprise, that anticipation of, oh, what ticket am I going to uncover today? So yes, like the dice, I think the tickets. And then there's also something called the Muse letter I did for a year, where I sent out a snail mail, really fun newsletter to 50 kids all over the world, actually. And I'd include a surprise in it, and it was all handwritten. It ended up not being as sustainable as I would have liked it to be, because I was always adding too many things in the envelope, and then the postage went way up. But I'm thinking of doing something similar, not on a subscription basis, but maybe a one-time deal for people just to experience that, what it feels like to open the actual mailbox and see a handwritten letter to you, giving you ideas of how you can further write about what it is you love the most. Maybe even have a little spot on my website where people can tell me, okay, so my daughter's 12 and she loves cats and she loves tree houses and she loves rollerblading. Could you, give her some ideas of what she can write about?
That's great. What about a network, like a writing network, where they used to have kind of a pen pal thing? Do you have something like that maybe people can get in touch with each other and write people letters?
Yeah, well, there's something called Letter Writers Alliance. It's in Chicago, and 2 women have actually done it. And I would urge your listeners to get in touch with Letter Writers Alliance. I joined, and they have free. They do that. They'll put you in touch with a pen pal somewhere in the world, and they have free stationery downloads. And you can buy a homing pigeon if you want to send your letter via homing pigeon. It's really fun. But I'm working on ways to bridge the gap between my students who I work with and teachers who might write to me and say, well, how can we get my students in touch with another group of students? So that's in the works.
Oh, that's great. So before we say goodbye, do you want to go ahead and give us your contact information and how we can get some of your resources?
Sure. So the best way to get in touch with me is to go to my website, which is, my old website is still up until the new one gets put up, but it's www.KarenBenke.com. It's Karen, B as in boy, ENKE.com. And that's the best way to get in touch with me. And my books have international distribution through Random House, so I like to tell people, please buy them at a local independent bookstore, because I love independent bookstores. Although you can get them at Amazon or at Barnes & Noble, I really like to encourage people to buy them either through the publisher, Random House, or just go into your local independent and they'll order it for you.
That is great. Well, I'm certainly jealous. I didn't ever mention that, you lived near, I said it in your bio, but that you lived near the Golden Gate Bridge. I can't imagine how inspiring that is. I love that area. It's so
inspiring.
Beautiful.
I live very close to, I just crossed the Golden Gate Bridge night before last. I'm a 4th-generation Californian, but I still kind of gasp. I'm not jaded. It hasn't worn off.
Because it's just so beautiful. So, and your cat is not named Magic. We didn't explain that
No, he's a
either.
magic cat, but his name is Clive, and he's 8, and he's my muse, and he's definitely magic. And a lot of times when people ask me how I am, they really want to know how Clive is.
That's great. And you have a rescue dog, too.
I have a rescue dog named Rasco Rune, who has a heart-shaped marking on his forehead, and he is really in love with the cat. And the cat, Clive, gives him attention maybe once a week, if that.
Yeah. The difference between dogs and cats, right?
Exactly.
So, that's great. Well, thank you so much for joining us. It's been so much fun to talk to you. And I'm definitely going to check out your books because, like I said, they sound very family-friendly, a great resource that you can use together as a family.
Well, thank you so much for asking me to do this. And, I will say, I know a lot of your listeners are in the homeschooling community, but if there are teachers, my books do really well at school book fairs, and a lot of times independent bookstores will partner with schools, and I'm told that they sell really well at school book fairs. So I'll just put that out there.
That is great. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It was so nice to talk to you, and Rebecca, it was really fun.
Thanks for listening to The Luminous Mind. To learn more about Karen Benke and to get her resources, go to our show notes at theluminousmind.net. Also, be sure to become a subscriber to our free email list so you can receive our weekly audio blog, The Spark. We would love to have you join our program. Do so by going to the scheduling tab and become a fire starter today. Help support the podcast by making all your Amazon purchases through the free Amazon widget on our website, theluminousmind.net. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Google+. Get our audio content on YouTube, iTunes, and Stitcher. Leave us a review. Tell us how we can help you so together we can continue to light minds on fire and change the paradigm of education.